Good evening, everyone. This is your evening news recap. I hope all of you guys had a wonderful day. My day was all right. Today is April 14th. It is Monday. We've got a lot of news today to cover coming out of the Trump administration and some other news topics as well. Like I said, hope all of you guys had a wonderful day. It's getting hot here in California. Only about 82 right now, but it feels hot compared to these last few days. I'll tell you much. I'll tell you much. That was not English. But yeah. Hope all you guys had a wonderful day. We got a lot to cover, so let's get started. Coming out of the Trump administration, Trump has defied court orders showing AP to go or allowing AP to go to events. Trump wants to deport U.S. citizens. El Salvador won't return Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And Trump attacked 60 Minutes, the CBS News broadcast, and Trump has blamed Biden and Ukraine for starting the war with Russia. Trump has defied the court order allowing AP to go to Oval Office and other restricted events. Despite a court order, the Associated Press has been barred from the Oval Office news conference on Monday between Trump and President Nayib Bukele of El Salvador. Last week, a judge ruled that the Trump administration must let AP come to the events that and they must be allowed to participate, but they have not been allowed to participate in this event. The Associated Press has not made a statement on the situation. There is an attack on freedom of press and speech in this country. We are going down a dark path, and I'm not going to excuse that in any way, but we do have some light to look at. There are people across this country fighting very hard to make sure your rights are safe, and it's good to see, people in Congress are actually stepping up. People in the House are stepping up. People across our government are stepping up. I mean, Republicans are starting to switch sides. Bernie Sanders and AOC are traveling across the country spreading their message and their word. Not to mention, Democrats are writing bills to prevent the Trump administration from doing these harmful things to the American people. So, people are trying. And I know it doesn't seem like it, but something's brewing, and we're getting where we need to be. We won't be there for a while, but we'll be there soon. Trump wants to deport U.S. citizens. Today, Trump met with the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, and discussed the idea of sending U.S. citizens to prisons in El Salvador. Trump told reporters in the Oval Office, "We always have to obey the laws. We have homegrown criminals that push people into subways and that hit elderly ladies in the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking. They're absolute monsters, and I'd like to include them." He was even caught on a hot mic saying, "The homegrowns are next," alluding to homegrown criminals and even telling the president of El Salvador to make more of his prisons. This is not something anyone in the US government has the authority to do, and it is illegal and strictly prohibited by the Constitution. So the Trump administration should not be able to deport any US citizens, but I'm sure they'll try. So he can deport us for breaking the law. Does that mean he can be deported as well? Because last time I checked, he has more felonies than anyone he's deporting, and by far the average American, that's for sure. Um, but this is what I mean. When you're told nothing, when you're English, holy, nothing stops them from coming after you. And that's what I mean by that. Like I've said over and over again, I've read this speech. First they came for on multiple occasions on here. There is nothing stopping them from coming after you next. That's why you need to speak out. That's why you need to share. That's why you need to tell people what is going on, because we cannot allow this Trump administration to run amok and just do whatever they want. And like I mentioned, people are fighting for your rights. They're fighting to get the message out. They're fighting to get people engaged. That's what we got to do. We just got to keep getting people engaged. Keep, watching these stuff that I'm showing to you. Maybe make your own videos. It's not really that hard to get on TikTok for a few minutes and, really talk. I'm not saying you have to come on here and do a nightly podcast every night. Not everyone has the opportunity to do that. I'm very, fortunate to be unemployed and, be able to come on here and do that. But, you know, um, just keep speaking out and keep doing your part. You gotta do what you can to prevent this from happening. El Salvador also will not be returning Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The president of El Salvador, Niave Boueki, told reporters today in a meeting that he wouldn't return Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He said, "How can I return him to the United States? Like, if I smuggle him to the United States?" He went on to say, "We're not very fond of releasing tariffs." Trump said he wants Boueki to take as many criminals as possible, even Americans. He's definitely dead. In no other place in the world would they be sending someone somewhere on accident and then have to fight so hard just to not bring him home. There is no way in any timeline, in any way, in any situation that you can force me to believe that he's not dead. And I know that's fucked up to say, and I know that's unfortunate to say, and I really hope he isn't, but they are sending people to a prison and they are not coming back. They are just disappearing. That is an extermination camp, and there is no looking away from that. Hopefully, I'm wrong, and hopefully, he's very much still alive, but, I haven't been wrong yet, and that is arguably the most stressful part about this entire administration is I have not been wrong once. Moving on. Trump has attacked 60 Minutes, the CBS News broadcast. Trump says 60 Minutes and CBS News should pay a big price for going after him. Trump said on Truth Social, "Almost every week, 60 Minutes mentions the name Trump in a derogatory and defamatory way, but this weekend's broadcast tops them all." He called on the Federal Communications Commission's chairman, Brendan Carr, to impose maximum fines and punishment for unlawful and illegal behaviors. On Sunday, 60 Minutes broadcasted two reports: an interview with President Zelensky of Ukraine and a report from Greenland on what people say Trump's desire to take control of the island is. Trump called 60 Minutes a dishonest political operative simply disguised as news and must be responsible for what they're doing and are doing. This is another attack on freedom of speech. Freedom of speech and freedom of press are continuously under attack with this administration, even seen with AP now today. Trump wants to silence the media, and we can't let that happen because it's illegal. We need to continue speaking. We need to continue making our voices heard and making sure that people know what's going on, because he won't silence me, and I would hope he can't silence any of you guys either. I'm going to continue to speak. I'm going to continue to shout. I'm going to continue to be loud because people need to be spoken for. And, you know, everyone needs to have a voice. So, yeah. Moving on to the final Trump administration segment today. Trump was really moving around today, wasn't he? Trump has blamed Biden and Ukraine for starting the war with Russia. In a new Truth Social post, Trump has come out swinging over the war in Ukraine. The president said the war was Biden's and not saying and not his, saying, "I just got here, and for 4 years during my term had no problems preventing it from happening." Trump says the war didn't happen under him because Putin respects him, a common argument of the president. He would go on to say, "I had nothing to do with this war, but I am working diligently to get death and destruction to stop." In 2020, if the 2020 presidential election was not rigged, and it was in so many ways, the horrible war would have never have happened. Russia invaded Ukraine. The 2020 election was not rigged. Those are things I feel like I shouldn't have to say in the modern day, but alas, here we are. I feel so sorry for Biden. I mean, every day it's just another way from the Trump administration to just shit on his name. And he was arguably one of the better presidents in recent history. He had a great economic policy. He, wasn't the greatest on all fronts. I'll admit that, but for a standard Democrat president, he wasn't the worst, truly. So I mean, I feel sorry for him, definitely. There's not much else I can really say on that. I mean, Russia started the war, and It's not Biden's fault. Moving on to the other news segment, we have two topics to cover today. JD Vance has dropped the Ohio State National Championship trophy, and the European Commission is giving burner phones to U.S.-bound staff out of spy fears. JD Vance has dropped the Ohio State National Championship trophy. I don't get to cover football news often, but you bet when I have the opportunity to, I take the opportunity. JD Vance ended the Ohio State football team's visit to the White House on Monday when he dropped their national championship trophy. Vance tried to lift the trophy and didn't account for two pieces, then he would end up dropping the trophy itself. Players from the Marine Corps, or instrument players from the Marine Corps, if you will, would play "We Are the Champions" in the background. Players and members of the crowd would also laugh at the vice president for dropping the trophy. I don't often get the chance to talk about football news, so you bet I will with this. I don't really know what his plan was to lift this trophy when it was in two pieces. If you've seen the clip, I would put it in, but I'm not great at editing. He tries to lift it as one, and the top kind of falls off, and everything kind of falls with it. By the looks of the video, it doesn't look like he damaged it in any way, but you don't really get a full up-close shot of the trophy, so I might be wrong. But a lot of people have been going around and saying he broke the trophy, so I'm not too sure. But the trophy is a two-piece trophy. So I don't really know about the facts on this one. Not saying like I'm not educated on this. I don't really know if he broke it or if it's meant to be like that. Not a big college football fan. I watch more NFL. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know what he was planning with this. Was he expecting to give it to Trump? Because if he can't hold this, does he really expect Trump to hold it either? I honestly feel like JD Vance has a better chance at holding a national championship trophy than Donald Trump does. Moving on to the final segment, the European Commission has given burner phones to US-bound staff out of spying fears. The European Commission is giving burner phones and basic laptops to US-bound staff to avoid the risk of espionage. Commissioners and senior officials traveling to the IMF and World Bank spring meetings next week have been given guidance on the US. They said the measure replicated those on trips to Ukraine and China out of fear of Russian and Chinese surveillance, and now will be out of fear of American surveillance. An alliance with Europe is dead. If it's not, it's hanging on by a thread. We are now considered a national security risk to countries who were our allies for over 80 years at this point. So many years. And that's truly sad. I mean, the largest military in the world is considered a national security risk to its allies. That is not only an unfortunate thing to say, but a sad and terrifying concept to think about. Yeah, with that being said, that's about all I have to cover. It is hot today. So we're gonna end her here. Not much to say, if you're on YouTube, drop a sub, drop a like, drop a comment, let me know how you're feeling down below. On the way to 100 YouTube subscribers, so let's get there. If you're on Substack, consider pledging your support. All funds go to me and my expenses in college. If not, you can always subscribe for free. That's always an option. I appreciate all forms of support. That being said, thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow with another news recap episode. Later.